Brazilian heavyweight Augusto Sakai is kind of like the opening track to the 1989 album called Full Moon Fever. Well, I'm free falling. We've got Augusto Sakai taking on Lord Kong, Dante Alves, who in his last time out lost a split decision. I've got a little asterisk next to that because it's now no contest on his record, to Egypt's Hamdi Abdelwahab, and I'll throw it up there right now.
A juicy boy.
You saw the suspension right there for Hamdi Abdelwahab, but for Dante Alves, most people expected his judo pedigree and his boxing would win him a fight like that against Abdelwahab, and he could not stuff many of those takedowns. So for Dante Alves, he now comes into this matchup. He gets a big opportunity all of a sudden against Augusto Sakai, a guy who in his last 4 fights has been finished. It started with a string of main events, one against Alistair Overeem, where Sakai wins the first 2 rounds, and then he just kind of tires out and he gets taken down. He then has a main event against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, gets knocked out. He gets beaten by Tai Tuivasa, finished in the second round, and then his last time out against Sergey Spivak. But Matt, for Augusto Sakai, he's got to be looking at it going, geez, why do I keep taking these fights at the Apex? Because he's 1-3 at the UFC's Apex, and now another fight in the small cage for Augusto.
I don't think it was going to make that much of a difference, to be completely honest. The problem with Augusto Sakai is more of a mentality issue. I really do think, because when he's the aggressive...
Who are you to say that it's a mentality issue?
Because it comes down to his aggressiveness in the cage. When he's walking forward and throwing output, he's a really successful fighter. When he's moving backwards with just his hands up, he's not a successful fighter. So I would say it comes down to that. Because against a guy like Dante Alves, I would say Augusto Sakai is a more well-rounded fighter. He throws a lot more leg kicks. When Augusto Sakai is on his game, I would say he does have the superior output too, as I struggle with putting those 2 words together. But you just worry about what version of Sakai we're going to get after seeing so many losses in a row. But I will say this. For Sakai, I do feel like Mays is a significant step down from his level of competition up until this point. It's not like, because here's the thing, going from Alistair Overeem down to Tai Tuivasa, well, okay, it's not as bad. But now you're going down to Dante Alves. So I do think for Sakai, this really is a how much do you have left in the tank? Because if he does throw with a lot of volume, if he does keep his hands up, he does have all the tools to deal with a guy like Dante Alves. You just wonder how much Sakai has left in the tank, because we see guys get knocked out once, twice, and then you do wonder about them moving forward. We have now seen Sakai, like you said, get stopped not only 4 times, but 4 straight fights. I just worry about where Sakai is in his overall career.
No, and that's it. For Sakai's last time out was in August against Sergey Spivak, who just main evented a card, got a big win over Derek Lewis. And for Dante Alves, that fight against Hamdi Abdelwahab was about the same type of time frame. Before that, wins over Josh Parisian and Rocky Martinez. And against Martinez, pushed a pace, held him back. Against Josh Parisian, got him down to the mat, got him finished. And you look at the losses that Mays has in the UFC, because he's 2-2 with a no contest. Cyril Gane was one of the losses, and then the other loss as well to Rodrigo Nascimento, who's got a big-time fight coming up on his slate. And when he's on, he's a very impressive fighter. So for Mays, we know he's got the judo pedigree. We know he's got pretty good boxing in his back pocket. He's a long-time Jackson Wink guy, and he's going to be, obviously getting John Jones ready for his big-time upcoming fight against Cyril Gane, and he's going to have that experience in his back pocket of getting heel hooked in the 3rd round. But for Augusto Sakai, think about it. He beat Blagoy Ivanov. He was ranked 10th. Then when he fought Alistair Overeem, he was bumped up. He was ranked 9th. Now all of a sudden, Sakai is out of the rankings. It's a big-time gym matchup. American top team against Jackson Wink MMA. But when you look at this matchup, Matt, it really is hard to tell. What version of Augusto Sakai are you going to get? Because Dante Alves is pretty much the same version of Dante Alves in every fight. Again, he did struggle against the takedowns of former bare-knuckle MMA fighter Hamdi Abdelwahab. But apart from that, he's able to go out there, land pretty decent volume, good boxing combinations, and if it really does come down to it, toss that cup into a guy's mouth.
I hope we don't see that. I just think, if you look at, what's the best version of both guys? Sakai's by far the better fighter in that scenario. Now, again, we have seen Sakai struggle against some of the upper echelon fighters, but the one thing that a lot of those guys have in common is, A, they can threaten with the takedown, not necessarily Rozenstruik and Tuivasa. But what do Rozenstruik, Tuivasa, and Pavlovich all do extremely well that Dante Alves doesn't?
Sakai hasn't fought Pavlovich.
Sorry. What? Who did Sakai just get knocked out by?
Sergey Spivak.
Sergey Spivak. Sorry, Sergey's got mixed up in my head. What do all those fighters do? They cut the cage off extremely well, and I do think that's going to be the question for Don'Tale Mayes. If he just throws with his boxing combinations and doesn't move his feet behind them, I think he's going to find himself chasing Augusto Sakai for a lot of this fight. And if that's the case, this isn't going to be a great fight to watch, because Sakai on the front foot, when he is throwing with combinations, is a pretty exciting fighter to watch. Like, I wouldn't say he is a stale heavyweight by any means, and I think we did see that in the Alistair Overeem fight, because he threw a lot of volume, especially early on in that fight. Like you said, he did get tired, but you don't necessarily worry about that in a 3-round atmosphere like this fight. I just think about what Sakai can be on his best day, and when you compare that against what Don'Tale Mayes is on his best day, Mayes might be able to be competitive with some of the boxing, but I do think he's going to struggle in some of those clinch positions, and I'll be curious to see if either guy does go for a takedown in this fight, or if we'll just primarily get a lot of strikes.
I've struggled with Sakai fights, and we talk about the last 5 fights. I even thought Sakai lost against Blagoy Ivanov, or was on his way to losing in that. When he grabbed the fence, he was getting taken down. Sakai doesn't look good in a meaningful amount of time, but I picked him again and again and again and again, because when he's pressuring forward, he keeps his head back and he throws a lot on his shots. He's got good zip at the end of it, but he throws a lot of volume, and he's one of those heavyweights that is decently well-rounded, and that's what got him all the way up into the top 10. Now all of a sudden he's unranked. So the odds in this matchup, Matt, they're actually at par. Don'Tale Mayes looking for his first win in a little over a year. Augusto Sakai in about 2.5 years since he beat Blagoy Ivanov. We have a look at the Topology votes. Surprise to us there, to you. I think the fans are kind of like that old Richard Marx song. Hold on to the night. I think they're holding on to the memories. I think they're going to have Sakai. I'm going to say over under 67.5% Augusto Sakai.
I think it'll be in the 80s, to be honest, for Sakai.
No, it's under. So 691 total votes, 64% Sakai, 60% by decision. For the 36% of the fans who have Mayes, 64% by knockout, which makes sense because Sakai's been finished in his last 4 fights. So listen, it's a big-time opportunity. I thought Sakai would have been gone after that loss, like 4 straight knockout losses at heavyweight. That's kind of usually a telling tale, but Sakai could be like a Marcin Tybor, and he just turns the clock around.
Could.
So, big-time opportunity for him. I do have Sakai. I think he's a little bit more fleet of foot, and I do like the volume. But Mayes, with the power of the boxing and the takedowns from those judo clinches, there's a good opportunity there, and obviously the odds reflect that.
This isn't a perfect example, but this fight reminds me a little bit of when Dan Hooker lost a lot of fights against the elite of the elite and then fought Claudio Puelles. It was like, okay, this is the proper fight for where you are in your career to try to get you back on track, because if Sakai beats Mayes, probably won't get a top 15 guy next. Maybe he'll get that 14th, 15th guy, but I do think it will get Sakai enough of momentum back so that he'll keep on getting some more bigger names after this one. I do have Augusto Sakai in this matchup because I do think he is the more well-rounded guy. I do like his output when he is on his A game, but I worry about how much he has left when it comes to durability, because Don'Tale Mayes hits really, really hard, and if he is able to land some of those elbows in tight and then follow up with boxing combinations, I can see a world where Mayes is able to get Sakai hurt and then finish him, but I do have Augusto Sakai.
This is one of those poster fights like when Overeem fought Lesnar, 6'6 versus 6'3, a couple of big-time heavyweights banging it out on the weekend. Matt, both of us going with Augusto Sakai to get the win. Let us know down below in the comments section who you have in the next fight, co-main event. Andrea Muniz, grappling ace, taking on Brendan Allen. He's Bangkok ready.
He is.
Brendan Allen, a big-time matchup in that co-main event. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.